Right. Hope it's audible to everyone. Okay. So far we are creating the packages. Now let us see how to work with functions. Okay. So we have another database object called as what functions. So functions are similar to what procedures. Functions are similar to stored procedures, but the main difference is function must return a value, whereas a stored procedure may or may not return a value. Okay, so I repeat once again. Function is also a block of what statements which has to be defined only once, and can be called any number of what times. The major difference between a function and procedure is the major difference is a function must return a value, whereas procedure may or may not return a value. Another difference is a procedure can contain input parameters or output parameters or both, whereas functions can contain only what input parameters. Okay, and another difference is procedures can be used for both read and write operations, whereas functions can be used only for what read operations. Okay, so basically we create functions to consume them in what views. Okay, going forward we'll discuss a concept called as views. There we are going to consume this particular function. So already we know some predefined functions like date functions, string functions, conversion functions. Okay, miscellaneous functions. Similarly, we have what user defined functions. We have the provision to create what our own functions, which we call it as what user defined functions. Okay, right. so so let's see how to work with functions. Later on, we'll see how to consume these functions. Okay. Today we'll focus on only what how to define the function and how to call the function. So I'll just summarize once again the difference between functions and stored procedures. The main difference is functions must return a value, whereas procedures may or may not return a value. Next difference is functions can be used to perform only read operations, whereas procedures can be used to perform both read and what write operations. Okay, and functions will contain only input parameters, whereas procedure might contain input parameters or output parameters or what both. Okay, and procedures cannot be called from a select query, whereas functions can be called from a select query. Okay, so we'll see all these things. Okay, so first what I'll do is let me create a simple function which we call it as what user defined function. So these functions we can categorize into what two types. Okay, so something like this. So these user defined functions we can categorize into what two types. UDF means what here user defined function. We can categorize into two types. One is scalar user defined function. Another is what table user defined functions. Okay, so if you take the scalar user defined functions, this can accept can contain only what can contain only primitive data types as what input parameters and what return values. Okay, in case of scalar user defined function, it can contain only primitive data types as input parameters and what return values. Whereas if you take this table user defined function, this can contain this can contain primitive data types or what table types as input parameters. Okay, it can contain primitive data types or table types as input parameters, and only table types as what return values. Only table types as what return values. Okay, so we'll see how to work with both scalar as well as what user defined function. So let me just create the function. So initially, I'll create the function directly in what SQL console. In case of procedure also, I have discussed in the same phase. First, we have directly created the procedure in the SQL console. Then we have seen how to call it. Later on, we are creating that under a package. So now also, first let us understand the syntax of what function. So let me just connect to the server. One second. So when do we go for functions is we have a concept called as scripted calculation views. What SAP is recommending is instead of writing the business logic inside the scripted calculation view, you write the same logic inside a function and integrate that function in the views. So I can say scripted calculation views are outdated. As of now, we don't know anything about view. We'll discuss going forward. So in that cases, the complex business functionality, I can embed it inside a user defined function, and I can integrate that particular user defined function as part of what views. So first in the systems tab, directly I'll create that under the catalog only in the SQL console. I'll set the schema first. Right. So what I'll do is quickly let me create a simple table. Based on the table, I'll create this particular function. So I'll say create a column table. Okay. I'll just give the table name as something over underscore time, or I'll say something over time. Okay. I'll take some fields in this employee ID integer, then another field employee name varchar of 20. Then I'll take another field like over time. Uh, the field name itself I'll give like this in underscore what hours. Okay, so this entire thing is nothing but your field name. Over time in parentheses in underscore hours. Let me give it as what integer. So the table is having what three columns, right? Oh, I got error. Why? I should not give comma at the last. For the last column, we should not give the comma. So when I execute, the table would be what created. So based on this table, let me create some what scalar user defined function. Okay, so how can you say whether that function is scalar user defined function or table user defined function? Means if it is having the return type as table, if the function is having the return type as table type, then we call it as what table function. Okay, table user defined function. If you are dealing only with primitive data types as input as well as return values, we call it as what scalar user defined function. So first, yeah, table is created now, which has got what three columns. Let me insert some data in this. Insert into the table name is what over time. I'll give some values. We have three columns. Done. So this is my table which has got some three records. So in the schema, what is the table name? Overtime is the table name. It's refresh. So this is a table name which has got three columns. So if you see the definition here, so one of the field name is what? Overtime in underscore what hours. I can give any name, but wantedly I gave that. Okay. Now my requirement is let me create what one scalar user defined function. So directly in the SQL console, I'll create the function. So how do you create a procedure? Same kind of syntax. Create procedure, procedure name, in the parentheses. If you want, you can give the parameters, and then after that you will say what language so and so. We have some additions. Okay, SQL security. Here also we have same kind of syntax. Okay, I'll not use all the options. What are the minimum things are there, I'll use it first. So I'll say create function. Create function. Instead of create procedure, we use what? Create function. Okay, so I'll give the name as name of the function as something convert underscore hours, some name. And for this function, okay, just like procedure, procedure can be created either with or without parameters. Similarly, a function also can be created with or without parameters, but function must return a value. Function must return a value. So I'll say convert underscore hours. I'll just give one parameter I underscore hours integer. So if you take procedure, we have to clearly categorize whether it is an input parameter or what output parameter. For input parameter we use in, and for output parameters we use what? Out. But in case of function, whatever the parameters we are passing, they're always considered what? Input parameters. Okay, so I'll give the parameter name as something I underscore our some input parameter of type what? Integer. So what I am using here, I'm using the primitive data type is what? The basic data types, integer, character, decimal, all those things we call it as what? Primitive data types. Okay, so I'm passing that. And just now I told at the beginning of the session, in HANA database, function must return a value. So I need to return a value, but I'll not take any return keyword here. I'll directly say as begin, just like for procedure, as begin, as begin. I'll just say select hello from dummy. So I'm just writing some business logic to what? Some select statement I'm writing add. So let me check whether my function creation is successful or not. Okay, so I'll just try to execute this. When I say F8, I got an error here. What is the error I got here? I got an error. Where I got the error? SQL syntax error. Incorrect syntax near as. Incorrect syntax near what? As. So the meaning of this is this is the place where it is having what? Syntax error. Why? Because in HANA database, every function must return a value. Procedure may or may not return a value. So here I'll say returns. And one more thing you have to understand. If you take our C language, C++, Java, a function or a method returns exactly one value. But whereas in case of HANA database, a function can return n number of values. Minimum one, maximum n number of what? Values. So I'll say returns. Okay, I'll give the return variable name as something res. Let me give the return variable data type as decimal. Okay, decimal of something, I'll say 15 comma 2 something. Okay, 15 comma 2 done. Okay, so here I'll try to write the actual logic. So what is my return parameter name? Res. So res colon is equal to what is the input parameter? I underscore hours. Okay, into some calculation I'm doing. Okay, so if you take our C++, Java, we have to use a keyword what? Return inside a block. We have to use a keyword written inside a block. But whereas here already at the time of defining the function, we clearly specified what is the return variable. Returns res of so and so type. So let's see whether the function will be created or not. Okay, so I'll just say F8. Yeah, the function got successfully created. What is the name of the function? Convert underscore hours. So where I can see that function, I directly created that in the catalog as a runtime object. So under my schema, we have a node called as what? Functions. Functions. Okay. If I expand this, yeah, you can see we have the function convert underscore what? Hours. Done. So function is created now. Now what we will do with the function, once a function is created, I can call it n number of what times. So if you want to call a procedure, we use a statement called as what? Call. We use a statement called as what? Call. Now here what I'll do is we need to invoke the functions from a select query. So I'll say select. What is the name of my function? Convert underscore what? Hours. Convert underscore hours. Sorry, convert underscore hours. Okay, my function is expecting one parameter. Okay, I'm not passing the parameter. Let me check what happens. Okay, so select convert underscore hours from dummy. So how it will interpret internally, it will check whether we have any predefined thing function with this. No, we don't have. So it will check whether any user defined function is there. Yes, it is there. But what is the signature here? There is a mandatory parameter, what? Integer. So let me try to execute this. When I say F8, okay, I got an error. What is the error I got? Invalid column name convert underscore hours. So it is assuming this as what? Column name. Okay, but it is a function. So what I'll do now here, I'll say select convert underscore hours. What parameter I have to pass? Integer parameter. So let me say something 2 from dummy. So when I say F8, so this 2 will go and sit in the input parameter I underscore hours. I am doing some calculation and returning that through a variable called what? RAS. So when I say F8, I got some result what? 120. 2 into what? 60. So what we understood is how to create a simple function, how to call it. This function I will call it as what? Scalar user defined function, because we are dealing only with what? Primitive data types as what? Input parameter and what? Return parameter. So input parameter is also is of type integer. Return parameter is also is of what? Normal basic data type what? Decimal. So we call it as what? Scalar user defined function. Okay. Now let me, okay, one second. Okay, I'll do one thing. So here I directly said from dummy. So now already we have the table. What is the table name? Overtime is the table name. It has got how many columns? Three columns: EMP ID, E-name, and overtime. Overtime in hours. So see the technique here. Overall, we have three columns. No? Done. So see here. I'll say select star indicates what? All the fields of the table. How many fields you have? Three fields: empid, ename, and what? Overtime. Select star comma what is my function name? Convert underscore what? Hours. So I'll say convert underscore hours. Okay, convert underscore hours. Okay, this function is expecting one parameter, so this parameter I'll try to pass it from my table field. What is my one of the table field here? Overtime in the parentheses what? In underscore hours. Okay, so here I'll say what? Overtime. That is the field name. Overtime in the parentheses what? In underscore hours. Okay, close this. Done. Then I'll say okay, so actually my table contains three columns, but in the output, I want four columns. I want EMPID, employee name, this field overtime in hours, then the calculated field. So the calculated field value will be returned by what? Our function. Okay, so for that additional column, I'll give some alias name. I'll give the alias name as overtime in what? Minutes. Overtime in minutes from what is the table name? Overtime. From overtime. So earlier I am just passing a value from dummy. Now my table has got what? Three records. Employee IDs are what? 1 2 3. What is the overtime value in hours? 20, 50, and what? 10. This I want to pass to my function. Okay, so how do you interpret here? Select star means what? It will retrieve all the three fields plus I'm trying to call a user defined function in my select query. This function is expecting what? One parameter. So what value I'm passing? My field value. What is the other field in the table? Overtime in underscore hours. I'm passing this. So this function will do some calculation here, will do some return that value. For that value, I am giving the alias. The table column name is what? Overtime in what? Minutes. So let me check. When I say F8, yeah, you can see I got that. So I got the three columns with values plus the constructed value. So what you have to understand basically is the function I'm trying to invoke from a select query. I'm trying to invoke from a select query. Okay, right? Is it clear up to this point? Any questions? Done. Now, inside my function, what kind of logic I can write? I can write any kind of logic. Okay. So let me quickly construct one more function with some slight additional logic here. I'll just copy this as it is. Control C. Control V, create function, convert underscore hours underscore. I can use any kind of logic inside my function definition. I can use if else statement, while loop, whatever logic you want, you can write. Any kind of complex logic you can write. So I'll just give the function name as if else. I'll take two parameters, I underscore hours integer, comma, I'll say I underscore some variable m. Let me declare it as what? Varchar of what? 1. Varchar of what? 1. So what is the signature of my function now? It has got two parameters. These parameters are always considered what? Input parameters. That's why we should not explicitly say it as what? In. In case of procedure, we have to differentiate in and what? Out. Here, return parameters is nothing but what? Output parameters. Okay, done. Then I'll say here returns res decimal 5 of true. Yeah, what is the logical right here? We are passing two parameters. So earlier function directly I calculate something. Now I'll say some simple technique. If what is the second input parameter? I underscore m. If I underscore m is equal to minutes. If I want by minutes, I'll say then what is the return variable? Res. Res is equal to Rs is equal to what is the other input parameter? I underscore hours into what? 60. Done. Then I'll say else if I underscore m is equal to something days, then I underscore result is equal to I underscore by 24. I'll say in terms of days. Else if it is other than minutes and days, else res is equal to the input parameter I underscore what? Hours. And end for if is what? End if. That's all. So this is a simple function. Now let me try to execute this. So F8. Oh, I got an error. Incorrect syntax. Where is the problem? Where is the issue here? Let us cross check. Then keyword I used 24 I gave. Done. Where is that incorrect syntax near so and so? Line 11 column 9. Oh, that's a problem. See here, this is a problem. And if and there should be space. Line 11 column 9. So in this selected one, the line 11 is this one, column 9. So let me re-execute space issue. I'll say F8. Done. The function is what successfully created. So if I refresh here in the left hand side pane, we have two functions, convert underscore hours, so on. So now I need to what? Execute this. How do we execute this here again? Let me use the same thing. Select star comma What is the function name? Convert underscore hours underscore if underscore else, if underscore else. Okay, in the parentheses I need to give the value. So what is the additional field in the table? Overtime in the parentheses in underscore hours. So I'll just say overtime in underscore hours. Done. Okay, so this is one value. So try to understand, this function is having what, two input parameters. One is of type integer, another is of type what, character. So I'm calling the function, the first parameter I'm passing is the field value from the table, comma, I have to pass what, another character value. So I'll just give yum. Okay, done. Done. So for this constructed column, I'll give the column label as something what, overtime in minutes, overtime in minutes. Done. From the table name. What is the table name? Overtime. From overtime. So when I execute this, so I'm passing m there. I got something 20 into 60, 1200, 15 into 60, 900, done. Overtime in what? Minutes. Now let me call it once again. I'm calling it again. Let me pass. What is the other possible condition I give? D. D means by 24. So I'll just say D here. When I say, okay, here I'll give the column alias name as overtime in days. Let me execute F8. Yeah, I got 20 by 24. 20 by 24, 15 by 24, like this. Okay. If I pass nothing, if I don't pass any value, I get the else part here. So and so. I'll just give the this thing as overtime in what, hours from so and so. When I execute this, both are what, equal. So this output is not important, but just try to understand, inside my function I can write any kind of what, logic. So again, this is simple logic only. Once we are done with creating the views, again we'll come back to functions and we'll try to write what, complex business functionality, which includes joins, unions, all those things. Okay, done. So we are able to create the function. And one more point I said is, in other programming languages, not ABAP, not ABAP, in C, C++, Java, a function can return only one value. But whereas here, in case of this HANA database, a function can return any number of what, values. So let me just try to illustrate that. I'll say create function. Uh, okay, I'll give the function name as something options. Something create function options. I'll take some two parameters. Let me take x comma integer, y comma integer. Okay, then I'll say, how do you specify the return parameter? Returns. I'll give that name as k1 integer comma k2 integer. So I'm trying to, again, I'm dealing with what, primitive data types. Primitive data types, so we call it as what, scalar user defined function. Scalar user defined function. Done. So what is the logic I want to write? As begin, I'll say k1 equal to so and so, then k2 equal to something x minus what, y. Done. And n. So what you have to focus here is, I'm trying to return what, more than one value. So when I execute this, when I say f8, a function got what, created. So if you refresh here, function got created. Now can anyone tell me how do I call this function now from my select query? Okay, I said that functions must be invoked from a select query. Okay, so can anyone tell me how to call this function so that I can receive both the return values? Anyone?
Can't you give the comma after the select statement?
Okay, select, what is the function name? Options. Okay, options, and I have to give her two values. I'll say 15 comma something 7. Okay, then I'll say from. Okay, from dummy. Okay, let's see whether this is correct or not. So I'm passing two input parameters, but I'm not receiving the what return value. So when I try to execute this, I got an error. What is saying here? Wrong number of arguments. This user defined function has multiple outputs, but this usage requires a single output. Specify a single output. Okay, so this is not valid. So how do we do it? Okay, I'll say select options. Let me try to password 15 comma 7. Okay, 15 comma 7. What are the return parameters? K1 and what? K2. K1 and K2. So I'll say dot K1 as, I'll give some alias for that. What is this? As addition, comma, okay, comma. Again, also what? Options 15 comma 7 dot K2 as what something what difference from dummy. Let me try to execute this. When I say F8, yeah, I got something what 22 and what 8. Okay, so the main thing you have to understand is it can return any number of what values. In C++, Java, at the end of the function we have to use a keyword return, and we can return only single value. But here I can return what any number of what values. So this is my what scalar user defined functions. One second. Now let me quickly develop one function which is nothing but what user table user defined function. So table user defined function is what uh, it can contain primitive data types and what table types as what input parameters, but only table types as what return values. Only table types as return values. So let's see how to do this. Yeah, here, one second. I'm having a schema called as SAP ABAP 1. Okay, yeah, in this I'm having a table called as VBAK. If I open the definition of the table, it has got these columns. Okay, done. Yeah, it has got these columns. And then, do we have data in this table? We have huge amount of data. Fine, data is also available. So based on this, so what is the table? VBAK available in which schema? SAP ABAP 1. So let me go back to our SQL console. So I want to create a function. Try to understand. I want to create a function where I need to pass one parameter. Like if I go to this VBAK table, yeah, I'm having one column here. What is this net value? I'll pass one net value as what input. Okay, so I want to return the sales order data whose net value is what greater than the given net value. Okay, so I will have what multiple values in the form of what table, in the form of table. So let me construct the function here. So I'll say create function.
Sri, the way we can check the standard functions, inbuilt functions.
In the documentation, you will not have it
Can't we
here.
check in the system?
No. Create function. I'll give the function name as something get sales underscore data. Okay, get sales underscore data. I want to pass what some input parameters. I'll say in. Okay, in what is that input I want to pass? NETWR, right? Okay, I want to pass NETWR as input. So I'll say in I underscore what net value. In I underscore net value, I'll say decimal of something 15 comma 2. Then this is my input parameter. Okay, then I'll say returns. Returns, I want to return what list of what sales order data in the form of table. So I have to say returns table. So I'm using what keyword here? Table. So this is nothing but called as what? Table function. Nothing but table user defined function. Table. I don't want to return all the columns. I'm having some 200 plus columns. I don't want to return all the columns. I'll just return weblen. Okay, let me return weblen and what? ERN name. All are string type here. So weblen. I'll give it as weblen is what type here? Weblen is also character only. Done. So I'll say weblen. I'll say n varchar of something 12. Okay, then I want ERNAM. Also what n varchar of what 12, okay, or also 30. Then comma. I want to return what net value also just for cross checking. Net value I'll give it as what decimal of something 15 comma 2. 15 comma 2. Done. Okay, so what you have to understand here, what is the signature of this function? This function is having one input parameter of type what net value. It is going to return me what table of values. It is going to return the table of values. In each record, how many columns you'll have? Three columns: weblen, ERNAM, NEWR, so and so. Okay, so I'll say begin as begin. Okay, as begin. What can I say? Okay, I don't want to put it in a I can declare internal table, I can return it, but I don't want like that. I'll directly say here return. Okay, try to understand. Return, I'll select from which table you want to get the data. From the VBAK table, which is available in which schema here? SAP ABAP 1. Okay, so if I don't specify the schema name, it will try to check for the table in the schema which I set in the what beginning of the session, that is gens of sequence. I don't have that, so I'll say select, return select. What is the schema name? SAP ABAP 1 dot, what is the table name? VBAK. How many columns you want to return here? Three columns. VBAK weblen. Okay, VBAK weblen, comma. What is the other column I want to return again? SAP ABAP 1 dot VBAK dot ERNAM. Done. Then I'll say SAP ABAP 1 dot SAP ABAP 1 dot what? VBAK dot NETWR. Okay, from which table? From VBAK table. SAP ABAP 1 dot VBAK. What is the where condition? Where SAP ABAP 1 dot VBAK dot NETWR, okay, is greater than or equal to the given input net value. What is that? I underscore what? NETWR. Done. And here also what? End. Okay, so let me here why I'm saying return keyword is, if I don't use return keyword, okay, again I have to create one local type, I have to put it in that. Here we'll be seeing that going forward. So directly I want to return this output of the select query. Okay, so return weblen ERNAM NEWR, so and so. Done. Let me try to create the function. I'll say F8. Yeah, function got created. So where it will be created, since I have not specified the schema here, it will be what created in our schema which I have set at the beginning of the session. So if I go to functions, let me refresh. Yeah, what is that? Get underscore sales underscore data. Now let me try to invoke that. I'll select star from. Okay, select star from. What is the function name? Get underscore sales underscore data. Get underscore sales underscore data, which has got one parameter, but I'm not passing. So when I say F8, yeah, I got an error. Wrong number or types of parameters in the call. I underscore netwr is what? Not bound. Okay, so let me try to pass. Get underscore sales underscore data. I'll pass some value. Let me pass something 4 lakhs 50,000. Okay, so I want to return those sales orders whose net value is what greater than or equal to what 4 lakhs 50,000. Okay, so let me check whether I'll get the data or not. When I say F8, yes. Is it the same? Yes. You can see Webland date, Webland name of the person, and you can see the net value here. Yes. It is returning all the values whose net value is what? Greater than what? 4 lakhs 50,000. Yes. It is returning. Around 625 entries are there here.
Sridhar, can I request?
Yeah.
Sridhar, can you put this data into internal table and modify, the net price in internal table and return it?
You want to store this particular data into an internal
So
table.
that, yeah, put it in internal table and then modify the internal table, column, net price column.
Okay. After modification,
Return it, something like that.
okay, yeah, we can do it. So the function is already created now. Now let me try to, 1 second. Okay, returns. For that, I need to create a table type again, right? Okay. Okay, 1 second. Create table. Create table. What are the columns you want?
Same 3 columns and
Yeah,
then just
yeah.
net price to
Correct,
be.
correct. Yeah. As type Webland nvarchar of 12, comma ERNAM nvarchar of 30, then netwr decimal of what 15 comma 2. Okay, create table as type, let me give the name. What is the error I got? Incorrect syntax near line 1 column 8. What is the error? Could not execute create table my type as type. Why? Incorrect syntax near type. What is the syntax? One second. Let me just copy the syntax as it is. Okay, one second. There is a problem in the syntax. My sales type, I'll create it as table type. I'll give the columns weblen, nvarchar of something 12, then ERNAM. Let us give it as nvarchar of something 30. Then this I'll give netwr. Let us give it as decimal. Let us give it as something 15. Done. Okay, let me try to execute this. Yeah, what is the syntax? Create type as or reverse. I did mistake here. The syntax is what I did as this should be type first here, and here it is what table. I did reverse here. So the actual syntax is what create type so and so as table. Right. The type is created. What is the type name? My sales type. So when I refresh here, when I refresh the procedure section, yeah, the table type name is what? My sales type. Where is it? Yeah, my sales type is the table type. Done. Now referring to this, let us create the function. So I'll say create function. I'll just copy it as it is. One second, let me take a call. Hello? Online, just hold on, please. Hello? Yeah, already I've sent a mail. Yeah. No, I sent it, but the problem is, no, you check it with the Robert and Julie. Yeah, I marked them in CC. Yeah, again I'll cross check around 10:30, na? Hmm. Okay. But how do you give that then? Okay. No, actually, as of now, I'm busy for the next 2 hours. No, I'll be in other assignment. Yeah, you can check with them. You can check with them. If it's not that, then definitely we'll do it. No, no, as of now, I don't have that access now. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Uh, yes, we will have it, but how can? Hmm. Okay. 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 Hmm. But that specs I don't have, but yeah, I shared with the team, but hmm. Okay. 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 But can they? Hmm. No, I don't think they'll do it, but hmm. 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 Okay. Yeah, in the attachment only it is there. Hmm. Okay. 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 Overall the size is 10, but no, we quoted it for 5 weeks in Hyderabad office only. Hmm. No, it's offshore only. Yeah. Okay. 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 So give me uh, by Monday we'll do it. And that is only front end part. No, no, I have not yet started. Yeah, I can connect around 2 o'clock then. If that is the case, no, at least I got some 3 4 hours time. Na? Once I okay, fine, fine. Okay. Huh. No, no, the problem is, hmm, okay, 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 okay. No, as of now, I don't have access. I dropped a mail also. At least in 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay. Fine. I'll try to connect. If not possible, after 2.5 hours, definitely I'll do it. Okay. Yeah. Fine then. Thank you. Yeah. Online. Are you there? Yeah. Fine. So what we are discussing now, we are trying to discuss what table function. So here we are returning. We are returning that done. What we are discussing now? We have created what one user defined type. What is the type name I gave? What is the type name? I forgot. And the procedures, yeah, my sales type. Okay, so here I'll say returns returns T sales as returns T sales. I'll just say directly what my sales type. Okay, now I'll say select web blend, comma ERNAM, comma what is the field there? NETWR from which table? From sorry, it's not available in this schema. SAP ABAP 1 dot VBAK dot VBLN VBAK dot VBLN, then VBAK dot ERNAM, because we are in different schema now. VBAK dot NEWR from what? From yeah, SAP ABAP dot VBAK into what? T cells. First, let me check the syntax. F8 function is incorrect. Incorrect syntax near my sales type. What is the issue? My sales type. No. Incorrect syntax near as. Why it is giving error? Could not execute. Incorrect syntax near line 3 column 1. Here only. What is the issue?
Need to mention. You need to mention the schema also there.
Not required, na, because it is available in the same schema, na. Available in the same schema. Let me mention otherwise. Jumps of SQL dot my sales type. Okay. Let me try now. Incorrect syntax near so and so. No. No, it is not expecting that. Incorrect syntax near as. What is the issue here? Returns. Okay, 1 second. Let me check the syntax here. Don't worry about this. We'll discuss it in the next class. ABC finish. Yeah, returns what they are saying, return table type. But why it is not recognizing that returns return table type. Returns 1 second. Yeah. Here I gave variable and data type. Here also same thing then. Okay, let me remove this as keyword also. No, it is giving the error there only. No, what is the syntax generated here? Returns return table type. Returns some variable we require. What is this as a? One second. Let me just quickly Google it for the syntax.
It's return table, I believe.
Returns table, but I want to return into a variable, just like this. In the scalar data type, I'm returning into what some variables. No, here also I want to receive it. 1 second. Returning table types in what? Table functions in HANA. Let me check any examples there. Okay, they are using table keyword only. Okay. They are using wizard here. Again, they are using directly the same thing. Okay, but I want into a variable. So they are also using what return keyword. 1 second. Returns table of so and so. Okay, let me follow the same syntax otherwise. Returns table of, let me directly say like this. First, let me try like this. 1 second. No, line 2 so and so. I'm getting error. It is not recognizing the table type. Table type is my sales type only. Gens of SQL dot my sales type. No, it is not recognizing. Second, do any example for that? Here also there is a table keyword only. No. Space, did I give space? No. No. Praveen, let me check it offline. Next class I'll discuss because I'm not finding any
Oh,
example.
yeah, sure. No problem. No, Sridhar, I think we'll discuss in next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I tried, this afternoon on this, and I still have the same issue.
You're using the same table type you have created?
No, I was using procedures, trying to update
Achha.
internal table and all that. So yeah, so I had some issues. That's the reason why.
Everywhere they are using returns table of only. They are directly giving the field names. Okay, I'll frame an example. Definitely it should come. There's no question that it will not come, but I need to check what is the valid syntax for this. Okay.
I think
Yeah.
we also have a data type called array, I believe, right, Sridhar? Array, and then we
Array
need
is
to record
array.
count.
Array is there. Array is there, but without using arrays also we should be able to do.
Because if you have array, then probably the record count is like internal table record count. We can update record by record like array 1 array 2 something like
So
that.
if that is the case,
There
we
is some
need to
example.
correct. We need to create the array separately and then we need to refer it here. But table type also we should be able to refer.
Yeah, table type is required because that is required to hold the data. But once we have the internal table data, then when we are looping to the internal table, we use that for, right, for 1 dot to record count, and then
End of
that's a
record
kind of
count.
array.
Correct.
Exactly. So that is the example given somewhere in the SAP document. So I was trying that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll also try. Definitely it should come. Okay, I'll check
Yeah.
an example and we'll discuss the next class. Okay. So today,
Yeah. Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So today what we discussed is what is scalar user-defined function and what table user-defined. In the table user-defined function, we are directly returning the table structure. So what you have to do is here in this case also, instead of mentioning the fields like this, I want to create a table type and I want to refer to that. So if that is coming here, it should come here also. Okay, I'll check it offline. Okay, so I'll frame the notes for this and I'll share. Next class on Monday, what we'll do is we'll start with this example only. We need to return the table referring to a table type so that we can manipulate that particular table inside our function or our procedure. Okay, then we'll say. Okay, so we'll discuss in the next class. So just focus up to this point only. Okay, this last 15 minutes, just ignore it. We'll discuss in the next class. Any other doubts in this part? Others, scalar user defined function and table user defined function. No? Okay. Chalo then. So we'll discuss again on Monday. Just focus on the scalar user defined. Next class we'll finish this example. Definitely it should come. There is no question it will not come, but we need to check how to refer the syntax here. Okay, so I'll wind off. We'll again meet on Monday then. Chalo.